Welcome to Happy Homes and Gardens. I'm your host. My name is Daphne Royse. I am a real estate broker, architecture, and interior designer. As you all know, we have a housing crisis throughout the country after passing SB9 and SB10. The backyard homes have become the norm. Abodu is the best ADU manufacturing company locally who handles and installs backyard homes in few weeks. We have a special guest, Jeremy Osborne from Abodu today. Welcome, Jeremy. Would you please tell us a little bit about you and Abodu?
Sure. Thank you for having me, Daphne, as well. Yes, so my name is Jeremy Osborne. I am the Director of Business Development here at Abodu. I'm also a licensed real estate broker and a licensed general contractor and a certified green builder, having run my own construction company for the better part of 15 plus years before joining Abodu.
Can you tell us what is ADU and why Abodu done so well?
Absolutely. So ADU stands for Accessory Dwelling Unit. And while we're at it, Abodu is sort of a combination of abode and ADU. We are keenly focused on providing a really great experience for our customers to deliver a simple, cost-effective, and quick process to deliver an ADU into a customer's backyard. That's also a beautiful, really well-built space as well that's going to last years and years. And so specifically, accessory dwelling unit, an ADU, is one term that can mean dozens of different things. Essentially, it's a backyard cottage, a nanny flat, a granny flat, home office, fitness studio, but generally it's a secondary home in a customer's backyard or a homeowner's backyard. And the reason why it's become so wildly popular is a lot of folks these days have this excess space in their backyard that is largely unused or underutilized. And this is a way to take an existing property and create that sort of multi-generational living space, or create a secondary income off of an existing space. And so it's a great way to build in more housing units here, especially in California, but really on the entire West Coast. That's certainly a lot more convenient and palatable for most homeowners. And sorry, to answer your question too, is in terms of why Abodu, why we're the best guys in town and around. And the simple, it's really that sort of kind of keep it simple, stupid philosophy. We really focus on doing one thing and doing it really well. We are a company that was created from the ground up to build and deliver ADUs specifically. We've looked at a lot of this legislation that has been passed in California and some neighboring states that are really advantageous to make it as easy as possible for homeowners to put in an ADU in their backyard to try to make a dent in the housing crisis that we all are faced with. And those same conditions specifically for legislation, but also for new processes and new innovations in factory-built housing, specifically, combining those two methods really makes us allows us to deliver a very quick and affordable and sort of painless process for the homeowner. So again, more than happy to go into the nuts and bolts of how we do that, but that's sort of the quick take.
So where are Abodu factories and showrooms that people can visit?
Yeah. Yes. So what you're looking at here on the screen is actually most of these images are from our showroom in Redwood City. So this is our Abodu 1 space. So customers can come to our showroom and tour through two of our models, actually. So we have the Abodu 1 that you see here, and also a smaller Abodu Studio model. We have a showroom in Redwood City. We also have a showroom in Los Angeles and a showroom in Seattle now as well. And then beyond that, of course, we've got dozens and dozens of homeowners that have Abodus in their backyard. That might be a little bit closer to you as a homeowner. Those are available on a much more limited basis. And so the showroom is certainly the best and easiest experience, but we do have other options too.
And how affordable compares to like traditional construction projects, and how
Yeah.
fast the Abodu can produce a ADU in the backyard?
Absolutely. So again, I speak as a general contractor myself with tons of experience having built ADUs myself for customers the traditional way a number of times, including my own parents. And so what I always tell people is that, when we can work with a homeowner, it's sort of a slam dunk in terms of pricing and timing and the quality you're going to get and the convenience. Really, all the above are sort of better when you get to work with Abodu. And the flip side is that, the reason that is the case is because we do have a fairly unique process. We build our units in a factory, so they're factory built housing, and they show up in front of a homeowner's home, essentially 98% completed, if you will, as a wholly built structure. So what you see here, so appliances, cabinets, countertops are all already installed. And then typically we'll do a temporary street closure. Our crew manages all of this, and they will set up a large crane in the middle of the street. The crane picks up the entire structure and swings it over the house and sets it down in the backyard. So really fast, really sort of painless way to rapidly install or get the lion's share of the work done without a 6-month or a 12-month long sort of excruciating process in a customer's backyard. But the flip side to that, of course, is that we don't always get to work with you. There are some limitations. If you've got a really tricky access road, or you might have some complicated power lines in the way or some other obstruction that might not allow us to use our normal installation process, then it's not always a great fit. So we don't get to work with everyone, but we really have designed a system that allows us to work with most homeowners, if you will.
Abodu backyard homes allow in fire zone, earthquake zone with flood areas?
Yeah, great question. And so that's one of the things that we have designed for. So we build our systems with a perimeter concrete footing. So if you're familiar with the concept of a crawl space underneath the house, where homeowners can, or plumbers or electricians can crawl underneath and move wires and move pipes around, that's a raised stem wall footing, concrete footing. The alternative would be a concrete slab, which is just a solid slab of concrete on the ground. So because we build on this raised foundation, it allows us to have a lot more flexibility in flood zones, but also build a tougher and a tighter building envelope for earthquake standards as well.
That's great to know. And as you mentioned earlier, Abodu, the ADU meets local building codes and compliances. Do homeowners still need to apply for the building permit?
Yes, so certainly do need to pull a building permit in order to install an Abodu. It's important to note because of that this is real property. When this project is done, you have taken your existing home. Let's say your home is a typical 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,500 square foot home. And once the Abodu project is completed with permits signed off, then your home overnight becomes a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 2,000 square foot space, or larger in the case of our 2-bedroom space. Our team handles the permitting process from start to finish, and that's really one of our secret weapons. The reason why we can do this process so quickly and so conveniently is that we've been very proactive in working with cities and counties statewide on a number of different levels. So I'll go through a couple of examples. One is that we have 3 specific Abodu models. There's the Abodu Studio, there's the Abodu 1, and there's the Abodu 2. All 3 models have plan sets that have been reviewed and pre-approved by the state of California. So separate from any city or any county, California's HCD program, which regulates factory-built housing, has approved our plan sets statewide. So any city, any county, the building itself is already approved before we submit for permits. And then we have a separate submittal process for the work, the much more limited scope of work, which is actually performed on site. One of those things being the foundation that you just asked about. We do form and pour that concrete foundation on site. So that's a much more limited set of permit work. And there again, our team is really savvy and really proactive in working with these cities and counties. So once we've submitted a project once to let's take San Jose as an example city where we work quite a bit. So we've submitted our plan sets to the city of San Jose, and once we complete that first project, or even in line with that first project, we tell them, hey, listen, we're going to be doing this a lot. We'd love to be a great partner with you. Why don't you guys take a closer look at this plan set and know that the next several dozen projects that we do is going to look exactly like this, because we only do one thing and do it really well. So from the city's perspective, it allows them to save a lot of time and energy because their team knows that they're going to be looking at the same thing every time. And that allows us to eliminate a lot of the time and hassle and red tape from the permitting process as well. Every city and every county is a little bit different. San Jose is one of the greatest examples where we can pull permits in less than a week, sometimes one day. And we do have a number of cities that are growing and joining that list. And even if it's a city that we haven't even worked with yet, it will certainly be the fastest process possible. And so it's a great way. It's a better experience all around. Again, as a contractor who used to custom design plan sets and build projects, it's a really frustrating and time-consuming process to build something or design something sort of bespoke like that when the customer's need isn't necessarily bespoke. If they really want something that's beautiful, but it's a fairly simple plan set, then there's definitely a better way to do it.
I'm looking at your slides. The finish is beautiful. And I just have a question about if a homeowner does have an option to choose the finishing materials and also the colors to match with their existing drawing on the property.
Absolutely. Yeah, great question. And so we have quite a few options and upgrades available so that the customer can customize the space and make it truly their own. And we have also a limited list of options and upgrades as well to really make it sort of optimize our throughput on the factory side of things and allow us to stick to those pre-approved plan sets. So the models themselves do have a fairly basic building footprint that's not going to change too much. With a few exceptions, we can sort of gear it towards a right-hand entry or a left-hand entry, for example. But beyond that, you can see the lap siding on the photo there. But we have several different exterior siding styles. We have a natural cedar finish. We have a Corten metal steel finish, which is like that rusted metal kind of modern looking finish. The lap siding that you see there as well is a paint grade finish, so you can give us any custom color you like. We've got several other exterior siding styles. We've also got several different flooring and options and appliance packages and cabinetry finishes. That entry door you see there is also available in a La Cantina panoramic door option, truly panoramic door that opens the full 9-foot opening wide. So yeah, there is actually quite a bit you can do to really make the space your own, even though it's built in a factory. And again, factory built housing is not the same as, say, there's another very similar term called manufactured housing, which is a very different quality of finish.
Right. I'd like to know, how can the homeowner determine if their homes or footprints allow ADU?
Yeah, and again, this is where the state has really done the heavy work, not necessarily Abodu. The state has been really aggressive in making it as easy as possible for homeowners to fit ADUs in general into their backyard. And what we've done is really design our models to check off as many of those boxes as possible. So statewide, the maximum that any city or county can impose in terms of setback regulations is 4 feet from the left, right, and rear property lines. So in your backyard, if you have a typical for the Bay Area, a 50-foot wide lot, then you would have a 4-foot setback on either side. So that's 8 feet total, and that means you have 42 feet in width across your back fence for an ADU space. Our Abodu one here is 35 feet long, so that's plenty of space. And so typical parameters, we look for about a 45 to 50 foot wide lot. We can definitely do it if it's narrower than that. And roughly about a 30-foot deep lot. Again, we can do it even if it's less than 30 feet. So we always recommend reaching out to us on our website. You can fill out a really simple form and just submit your address. I can actually show real fast, kind of how we do that. We just pull up satellite images on Google Maps. And we have a couple of other tools that we use. But we basically just zoom in the homeowner's backyard and take a quick look at their actual backyards. We can see your gazebo back there, your pool. And we take quick measurements with those satellite images, and we can actually tell within a couple of inches, in most cases, whether this is going to work or not before we've ever even stepped foot in your backyard, which is really convenient for everyone involved.
Will homeowners still qualify if they have existing non-conforming structures on the property?
Great question. So if you have an existing non-conforming structure that is attached to your home, there is a way for you to work with your local city or county permitting office to take that space and bring it up to current code and make it legal. That's not something that Abodu would do because we don't work with attached structures. You can also take your existing, converted garage, for example, or converted workshop that may have an illegal ADU space in it right now and follow the same process. Generally, when it's a detached structure like that, the cost and the time and the complexity of making those modifications might end up being much more expensive and time consuming than you want to take on. So for us, we don't necessarily work with those spaces, but we can demolish that detached space if necessary and install an Abodu in its place. And that's a very simple process for us.
So I understand that the square footage will be part of a living space, or is it that count as a part of a floor area ratio?
Yeah, great. So the living space of the Abodu adds to the total living space of your property. So if your house is 1,500 square feet now, it'll be roughly a 2,000 square foot space afterwards with an extra bedroom, bathroom, and a kitchen for that matter. But it's important to note that one of the things that the state has done to really be favorable towards homeowners is that the floor area ratio you just mentioned which is sort of the calculation of total space covered in your lot. The floor area ratio calculation does not apply for a conforming ADU structure, and that is all Abodu spaces. So our detached ADU, when installed in a homeowner's backyard, does not affect that total calculation. And that's great news, especially for homeowners that are looking at, doing a larger project either now or later on. We have quite a few customers that look at an Abodu as a great option as a phase one, say, for their larger construction project, because we can build and deploy these so quickly. So this can go in the backyard, and then you can live in the Abodu space while the larger project is taking place and not be out of house and home entirely. And it won't affect the ratio or the calculations for that larger project as well, which is great.
It is good news for the homeowner. Is the ADU going to trigger tax assessment value or Prop 13?
Yeah, another common question we get. So it won't trigger Prop 13. So your whole property won't get reassessed. However, it will add to the value of your property. It is real property. So the value of the project itself will get reassessed by the local county assessor. That is not up to us. It's up to the assessor to make a judgment on what this value has added to your property. What we typically see is a value of right around 200,000 plus or minus, I would say, is kind of the average for immediate value. So, you can see a property tax assessment plus or minus about 2,000 is kind of the average. Of course, that is going, big asterisk there. That's always going to vary quite a bit.
Is that Abodu qualify for SB9 and SB10?
It does. However, I will say that SB9 and SB10, we're very familiar with those laws. In fact, some of the members of our team at Abodu had a pretty heavy hand in crafting the language for that legislation in its onset. But I will say that those are brand new laws that have just taken effect on January 1st this year. And what we're seeing is that most cities, most counties really don't quite know how to apply it yet. One of the big requirements would be the homeowner occupied residence as well, and one of the two lots that split. And so we're in sort of a wait and see mode. We definitely want to have a great option and service for our homeowners to use SB9. And we would love to participate in an SB9 lot split that uses an Abodu as an ADU, but we haven't necessarily designed our own in-house process to just sort of make it cookie cutter and painless quite yet, if you will.
Have all states passed legislations to allow ADU?
Well, California has certainly been the most aggressive. And we're interested in working with any and all states that are looking to pass these laws. We would love to be a nationwide company where this is prevalent in America, not just California. But generally speaking, this is more of a West Coast surgence, if you will. So we're currently operating in California, in both the Bay Area, in all 5 major counties, but also in Santa Cruz, Monterey County, Napa, Sonoma. We're also in Los Angeles, Orange County, Riverside County, Ventura County. We're also in San Diego County as well. So we're quite a bit of coverage statewide in California, and we're also in Seattle, Washington, and we plan on expanding to other states as well that aren't quite there with the passing some of this legislation, but we have heard ripplings, if you will, of potential legislation that might pass soon.
What if someone has a home in the mountain areas and they have a septic tank system? Is the ADU still allowed?
It does make it a little bit more complicated. Yeah, septic systems are certainly add more time and complexity to the process. We don't necessarily do the septic work ourselves in-house. It's not our core strength, if you will. But typically, if you live in a remote area where you're on a septic system, you've probably got a service provider already in your Rolodex that comes out and does the pumping every couple of years. So they would be the best place to start and look at resources, because you will most likely need to have it at the very least inspected, and probably need to work with a septic consultant to get a new certification that says, okay, this tank system is ready for a new bedroom, a new connection. Once you reach that step, then we would love to certainly work with you. And then the rest of the process is really the same as our normal process.
If an ADU allows in the area that has HOA or CCNR?
Yeah, great question. And again, one of Abodu's real strengths. So again, the state has passed a number of laws that allows a homeowner with a quote conforming ADU project. Some of those restrictions, to give you an example, cannot be taller than 16 feet, cannot be larger than 750 square feet, cannot be, has to be an all electric structure, cannot have gas appliances. Those are that's a really short list of a number of restrictions that make it a conforming ADU. And of course, by design, all Abodu models are conforming. So with very few exceptions, a homeowners association, um, CC&R restrictions, other city or county restrictions that might be on the books from um, um, previous years now have been superseded by the state's more favorable legislation, again, for a conforming ADU, which is an Abodu in every case.
So it sounds like there are requirements for minimum space, but is there minimum parcel size requirements to build ADU?
I'm not entirely familiar with that. I think there is at some point a minimum parcel size, but I will say that we've been able to work at Abodu on some pretty tight lots. Certainly less than 5,000 square feet, we can do it. It's really more a matter of how much space do you have in your backyard. And by the way, if you live on a cul-de-sac, for example, or a corner lot, in most cases, it doesn't need to be your backyard, which may be smaller. You might have a giant side yard, and then in most cases, we can make it work there too.
If a homeowner really like to add additional space to add an ADU, do you think they are able to finance for the ADU through maybe cash out loans or construction loan?
Yeah, we have a number of finance options available for our customers. To be clear, it's not Abodu Finance Incorporated. We're not quite it's not like going to buy a mattress where it's sort of 18 months of interest-free payments. But we do have a number of partners that we work with that have very attractive options. So probably the most popular option these days is home equity line of credit. So if you have enough equity in your existing property that you can tap into, that will offer the most attractive rate and certainly the most convenient way to pull that cash out in terms of the hoops that you need to jump through and the documents you need to provide. The main reason for that is when you're doing a HELOC, typically that cash that you're pulling out for the project is going to be tied to an improvement on your home. And when the lender knows that, and that's certainly the case with every Abodu project, we are adding to the value of your property, then it makes it a little bit easier to fund that loan from the lender's perspective. Cash out refinance is also available if you wanted to refinance your loan. Now that rates have ticked up a little bit, lenders are a little bit more favorable or open to doing that. And then the third option, if you happen to not have necessarily enough equity in your home, you haven't lived there long enough, or if it's an income property, you might not be able to do a typical cash out refinance, and then a construction loan is still a great option. And we've got some great partners that we work with that provide those options as well.
Why is Abodu much better than other competitors in the markets?
Yeah, honestly, we do have quite a few competitors. It's one thing to come up with a similar concept, to come up with a really beautiful, say, digital architectural rendering of what you can build and what you promised to build to a customer. It's a completely different thing to actually deliver on that promise. And so what we've really focused on is designing a beautiful structure that's also very practical. We use conventional building materials and conventional building methods with a lot of intention, so that it's not rocket science to actually build these in a factory and have them stamped and approved by city and county offices. They know what they're looking at, and also for inspectors to look at these buildings and sign off on it. And we use trusted and proven partners as well. It's not myself, Jeremy, hopping in the cab of the crane on install day to carry this thing over a homeowner's house. We use crane operators have been doing this work for decades with a great reliability of safety and success. And we've got a great team, to be honest with you. We've hired the best and the brightest in a number of different industries to really focus on, again, streamlining the process, designing a very simple and effective process. And we just try to not quote unquote, get out over our skis and take on too much whenever possible.
If someone decided to add one of ADU in the backyard, can you tell us how long it would take the whole process? How many days after the actual ADU delivered on site? I mean, how
Yeah.
long it would take to finish?
Yeah, I just realized we've gone through quite a few topics, and I haven't discussed the actual timing and the process. So, yeah, so let me give a hypothetical. Let's say, Daphne, you were to sign a contract with Abodu today for putting in Abodu in your backyard. Typically, we would go through and work with you for the next 1 to 2 weeks and have you select your paint color, your siding finishes, and your appliance package, and go through all the options and upgrades. Along that same time frame, our team is doing some extra layers of due diligence just to make sure that we understand the full parameters and the full scope of the project. And then once all those boxes are checked off, we put your order into our production queue at the factory. And then that can follow 2 different tracks. We have the sort of build to order process where you're doing a lot of customizations. In that case, it's typically a 6 to 8 month process right now for the factory build process. And we parallel process that in most cases with our permitting timeline as well. So we're not necessarily losing time while we wait for permits, although again, permits could be 1 week, it could be 4 weeks, it could be 6 weeks. And then once we have permits in hand, we're basically ready to break ground. We're usually waiting a couple more months for the unit to be completed at the factory. The second process, which is really attractive, is what we call our quick ship program. And so what we're doing essentially is we're building a number of Abodu units to a specific set of options and upgrades. It's sort of our greatest hits, if you will, that most customers prefer to order. So we build those up as an existing inventory to sit in a storage yard here in the Bay Area, ready to sort of deploy as soon as we have permits in hand. So then you can sign a contract with us, go through the permit submittal process. Let's say it takes 3 weeks in your city for us to pull permits. And then your quick ship unit is already ready to go. And then so the limiting factor is really just how much extra time we need to spend on site for the finishing touches. So it could be as little as 30 days from permits in hand to project completion with the quick ship process, which is really unheard of for a fully installed and built and beautifully finished unit of additional housing. The work on site, whether it's several months from now or several weeks from now, to begin the work on site, about 2 weeks before we schedule the actual install day, which is the crane process, our crew will come out and they'll start the work on site. So about 2 weeks before install day, crew comes out, they'll excavate and form and pour a pretty typical concrete perimeter footing with rebar reinforcement and all those important details. They will also trench and make all the underground utility connections. We make 3 main connections. It's water, sewer, electrical. And then we typically do an extra conduit for any data connections that our customer wants to provide as well. And again, that whole process takes about 2 weeks typically. And then we have essentially 1 preliminary inspection from the city inspector to check off and make sure that it's formed correctly. And then we get to pour concrete and we're ready for install day. Install day is typically 1 day. It's really about a 4 to 5 hour process. I always tell people it's a great day for a block party because there's going to be a lot of commotion out in the street and it's pretty exciting. Any kids who have ever played with, or adults who've ever played with toy trucks or toy cars, they'll get a big kick out of it. And then after install days, so the unit sets down directly on the concrete foundation. And then it's usually another 2 weeks or so for the finishing touches. So again, the unit, when it arrives, already has the cabinets, the countertops, the appliances, the plumbing fixtures, the flooring's already installed. So the finishing touches really are building a landing off the front door to your existing yard, your existing grade. We make the final utility connections. So that's again, water, sewer, electrical. little bit of touch-up paint here and there mostly from transit on the truck. And we have a final sign-off by the city permitting team. And that's it. Then it's time for, I always tell people it's time for movie night. Time to move the sofa in and pop some popcorn.
That sounds excited. Would you mind to share a little bit about the pricing and also what includes in the price and what are not?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, we have 3 models. So the base price, as we call it, for the Abodu Studio is $199, so $199,000. The Abodu 1 is $242,000, and the Abodu 2 is $289,000. We do have regional pricing, I should mention too. So in some areas, that price may vary a little bit. And what's covered in that initial base price is everything that we can really sort of quantify without ever having looked at a particular customer's backyard. So we cover all the finished materials that you see. We cover all the factory construction. We cover the delivery to the site. We also cover the permitting submittal services and our crews work on site, and also the delivery with the crane or with some other method. The asterisk on that, what's not included, is the things that are really truly specific to each individual backyard or individual property. Some examples of that, we cover the first 50 feet for each utility connection. But it is typical that your backyard, especially if you're fortunate to have a very large backyard, you might have a longer run. So let's say it's a 75 or 80 foot run for the water connection or the electrical connection. Then we have a set ratio or formula for adding on the cost of that longer run. Same thing with the crane. We cover the first 100 feet. In some cases, it may be 120 or 130 foot crane reach. And then there is more labor, more cost, more materials involved with that crane setup. So there's an additional charge there. Other details, and again, our team will come out to your house and look at all of these details and factor all of them in a very detailed and comprehensive proposal. But if you have an older electrical panel that might need an upgrade, so that we can sufficiently supply the new space, or if you need to demolition some concrete in the driveway. Some of our folks want to demolish their garage entirely to make room for this Abodu. So there are quite a few things that really vary. Tree removals, things that really do vary from site to site. We'll come out, we'll gather all the details to give you an accurate price, including those details. So pretty typical, let's say the Abodu 1 that you see here, base price is $242. You know, the final project cost, or the quote whole project cost, including taxes, permit fees, site-specific details, including those distance charges, typically is going to be more like $270, maybe $280, somewhere around there. And that would probably be the average, I would say.
After the final product, do you offer any warranty on the ADU?
Absolutely. So again, we're building a true extension of your home in every sense. This is real property. We build our units to California Building Code. So the California State Contractors Licensing Board certainly applies here too. The standard warranty guidelines apply. So what that entails is a 10-year warranty for the structural integrity of the building, a 4-year warranty for the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems, a 2-year warranty for the products that we install, and a 1-year warranty for the general fit and finish. So that's the trim work or the door getting out of level, things like that.
Thank you very much, Jeremy, for your informative presentation. I really appreciate your time today. If anyone that interested about Abodu products, you can contact me directly, and I will link contact information below.